Hello and welcome to the Wise Woman's Journey. Today, my guest is Jennifer Butler. Jennifer is a sociology of style and color expert. She bases her work on the belief that each person is perfect and unique, and that this individuality is expressed in their style. The way we physically express ourselves is a critical element of human communication. Therefore, the more related we are to ourselves, the more effectively we will relate to others. Building on her fashion expertise, knowledge of human nature, and understanding of color, Jennifer develops style and color palettes that reveal the essence of an individual's personality. Through her work, she helps clients, including private individuals, public speakers, artists, CEOs, business executives, and spiritual ministers, fully express their natural beauty through their unique and authentic style DNA. Welcome, Jennifer.
Well, what a joy. I love the name, Wise Women, right? Here we are.
Here we are. Here we are. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you about your work and how that relates to the Wise Woman's Journey. But I thought we'd start at the point, in your bio, you mention style DNA at the end, a person's unique and individual style DNA. So
Mhm.
could you tell us a bit more about what style DNA actually is?
Oh, sure. I'd love to. It certainly was a revelation to me. Well, we have a human physique, a human body that has a design pattern. And we recognize sacred geometry in the universe, and it also applies to us. So I'm looking at the shape of your face and how it's mirroring your neckline, for example. Right? I have a very small, very tall neck. So I'm always kind of filling in my neck. And this squareness kind of right in here is mirroring the jawline.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm more square in here. And look at the squareness here. So everything I have on is a mirror of the design of my body. And that design of my body informs decorating my home, right? It informs what I wear. It informs the shapes of my jewelry. So everything in my universe, I'm acknowledging my gratitude for how I'm designed by Mother Nature and saying, you've done a good job. And I'm going to honor that by repeating my own design pattern. So we're looking at the shape of the face, the shape of the jaw, the shape of your eyebrows, your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. And we're coordinating. I am looking at your glasses, and the edge of your glasses has this lovely kind of curve, and it's matching the curve of your face. So you can imagine if we put something overly angular on you, right, that it would compete. So instead of camouflaging and competing with ourselves, we're in alignment, and we're grateful that creation has made us the way that we are, and we're honoring that.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned my glasses because I have another pair which is not the right shape for my face. It's more rectangular. And although it's the right color, because it's similarly a neutral color, when I wear them, it doesn't feel right. So that's the pair that
Mhm.
just fits in my handbag that I take out. It's like because if I lost them when I was out, I would be less upset. But this is the pair I wear on Zoom.
You know what's wonderful too? I love what you said about it didn't feel right. So what is that? So in a way, our intuition is telling us that something feels a little off balance,
Mm.
right? And our coloring and our design is in balance for us, right? So if you're wearing everything that's congruent with yourself, you have this experience of inner and outer alignment. Like I'm not looking outside myself for the answer. And I think that's why this work is so powerful for women. Like I'm not looking at fashion. It's fun for me because I'm trained in fashion. I was trained at Bloomingdale's in New York. I'm now 73, right? So that would have been in the late 60s. And I wore everything but myself, right? Nothing that I always looked great, right? Everybody gave me comments, but I wasn't embodying myself in my choices. So I was wasting a lot of money. And that's why I was kind of driven. I remember one night I was in Bloomingdale's. It was probably about 8 o'clock at night, and the store was a little bit quiet. And this woman came up to me, and I knew all the departments in the store. It was my job to know where everything was. And so I was very eager to tell her where everything was in the store that she needed. And she said to me, I want you to tell me about my individual style. And really, it's strange, but nobody had really asked me that. And I thought, well, I don't even know what mine is. And so that really became that inquiry, like, what is my style? Really became my life journey and my vocation. I majored in sociology, I minored in art history, but my real education has been in spiritual psychology. And I did that because I would always feel that someone was beautiful in and of themselves in their own uniqueness,
Mm.
but they always gave me a bad time about themselves. You know, I don't have the right shape of face. I don't like the shape of my nose. I don't, right? There was all of this negativity about themselves. And so I said, well, how can we find a way back? How
Mm.
can we return to this goodness, right? This internal beauty that we have.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. It feels like it's so important for women to hear because I think probably most, if not all, of us have probably grown up judging ourselves against external standards of beauty, whatever was the rage at the time, or maybe it's also, I think, there's cultural differences as well. I mean, I know, like when I was a child, I had dark brown hair and uh,
Mm.
a very European, sort of West European long nose. And for some of the time, my family was living in Pittsburgh in the United States, like um, between my ages of 7 to 13. And at that time, I think that the type of the the ethnicity in Pittsburgh, like there were a lot of people who had German backgrounds, Polish backgrounds, so a more East European look. And at school, what was considered to be pretty was a short turned up nose and blonde hair and a rounded
Oh,
face,
right.
a more East European look.
Yeah,
So I grew up thinking I didn't meet those standards of
yeah,
beauty at all. So I think we've all got our own individual story
yeah.
about that and have got so used to judging ourselves externally. So I think that's one of the things that has inspired me about your work and why I think it's related to this wise woman topic. That to me, the wise woman's journey is a lot about finding your way back to who you were meant to be and embodying that without apology.
Yeah, very much so. That's why we started the True Beauty movement, really was you can go to the website and really look at the principles behind it because it's where we are an act of nature, right? And so when I was looking at where did this idea of perfection come in? I mean, like, what is even perfection in beauty? I mean, it was made up by somebody and it doesn't seem to really be working because we're not feeling validated. So why don't we make up a new, right, a new movement, which is that our own true beauty, right, our own, the way that we're created. So in a way, I'm only answering to the universe in gratitude. And then at USM, University of Santa Monica, where I went, when we look at forgiveness, we're looking at I forgive myself for the misunderstanding that I had to abide by any sense of perfection when I am already perfect as I truly am. Right. So a lot of the spiritual psychology is kind of looking at these different stories and scenarios that we've created and finding a way to heal them and reframe them. I'm just perfect really the way I am. I am a work of art that Mother Nature created. And
Mm.
so all these new reinforcements come in, and then I'm dressing like in my generation, right? You had to have the oval face. And so I thought, oh, the square jaw, I have to figure out how to lengthen myself, right? Lengthen. And yet the square is what dramatizes me. And I'm sitting in front of a square coffee table in my home, right?
Mm. Yeah,
So
your approach, the way you work with people is to honor their natural features, the natural shapes, the natural coloring, and to and the help that you give them is with regard to their clothing, but also right through their life,
yes, very much so.
through their home, everything. So
Yeah.
everything is a reflection. They see
Mhm.
themselves everywhere they go, I guess might be one way of.
Yes, and also abiding, when you go to the higher power, really when you live from that place, everything has its perspective. So I may be having a bad day in regard to myself, but if I look at the higher power, Mother Nature is giving me the essence of who I am. So when we talk about soul dressing, we're talking about that I'm recreating my the moonlight energy that I have in the way that I dress. And so then I'm congruent with something bigger than myself. I'm dressing out into the world as a contribution because my energy, my coloring, my pigment is what's creating me into human form. So I'm trained by the originator to do colors from your essential essence. So there's what we call the sacred triad. I can show you mine on my palette. So mine is my hair, skin, and eyes. So here's my hair.
Mhm.
And then there's my skin, and here's my eyes. So the lights in my eyes actually are amber.
Mhm.
And then I have also a sacred triad. I have a red, a yellow, and a blue, right? And then I have a yellow to violet complement. So the we're looking at the way you're born is with a certain constellation of colors that bring you into physical form. That's a science, right? You're born through your pigment. And so the colors represent a harmonic from Mother Nature. It's sort of like you're given this song, right? There's a range to your voice and all these notes you sing, and we recognize each other's voice over the phone, right? And we can even hear people walking down the street or the hall, and we know them, right, who they are. So it's the same rhythmic color harmonies. And that's really what Suzanne's gift. She was a master, and I trained with her and studied with her and traveled with her. She said, what we want to do is a constellation of colors that represent the harmonic of the person that the person is born with.
Mhm.
Then this is where my authenticity lives.
Yeah.
So when I wear this, I become my own walking celebration of life. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's pretty exciting. And I had trained with other people before I met Suzanne. And actually, when I met her, she did not want to train me because I had a fashion background. She said, no, there's a difference between image and essence. And essence comes from the inside out, and image is something that's crafted on the outside. And she said, I don't really work with that. And since you've had 10 years of training in that, that's a lot for me to get through, to get through to you. And so I ended up living in an ashram in Santa Monica with Muktananda. And then of course there you kind of really drop all knowledge. And then I met with her again. And then she finally said, okay, I think you're ready. So it really was a spiritual journey that led me to this work, right?
Yeah, that's it's so interesting. And for people who are listening, the person we're speaking of is called Suzanne Cagill.
Yes, Suzanne was there. She started in the 40s. I met her in the early 80s. And she was just an amazing woman. She had wanted to be an opera star, was an amazing performer in her own right, and became very ill. And the work became a channeled body of knowledge through her. And in her lifetime of 40 years, she created about 64 different personality types. She worked with Virginia Satir, who created family therapy, and also the Myers-Briggs. So those were sort of her grounding forces. I think for me, because it came from a spiritual place, I was interested in the soul piece. I said, where's the inner light? So the inner light in me comes alive when I wear my own coloring. I can't wear your skin tone and come alive, right? I come alive with my own self. And so I focus more on the essence piece. In fact, people can go to my website, jenniferbutlercolor.com, and there's a beautiful slideshow with music on the four seasons. And then there's also a quiz that you can take, right, to see if you can determine your season. And all of that is free. So we really love to support people.
Yes, and I recommend people go to that. It's a beautiful presentation, and as you say, you get to do the quiz and get an insight from that. So maybe we could talk a little bit about the seasons, because you mentioned before when you were talking about your moonlight essence.
Okay,
We could talk about
sure.
those
We created
essences. Yes.
vision boards. Let me just reach for them here. And these boards were made, they're huge in my living room, but of course that's too big to show. So I just made these little cards. And what you hopefully see here is a sunlight essence. So this is a woman and man who love living in the moment, and they live in the joy of the new creation. So we're following the life pattern of creation.
Mhm.
And so we begin creation with the spring. So it's all about vitality, instantly relating to people. In a way, it's the culture of our country, the United States, right? Because it's oriented toward the youth.
Mhm.
Um, So this is really about the golden light. And then we go to your country, England, which is the twilight energy. And you can see in a way, as I hold this, it kind of reaches out to you, right? Your coloring. So this is living in a state of grace. So we go from creation to sustained energy. And so these are the women who appreciate refinement and really have a sense of deep listening and compassion and kindness and understand that life is a process. See, I don't understand that. I learned that from you. That's not in my DNA, right? And then we go to the autumn, which is all about harvest. And one of my dearest friends is this. And, we did a 7.5 hour wardrobe, right? That's a production. The autumns produce life, they harvest life, they live with this magnitude and magnificence of the universe as it moves to completion. And then on my watch is the winter. So I'm over here more with these colors. But the winter is the moonlight energy, the priestess, the hero. And that's why the perfection thing is so important because we strive for perfection. But my life lesson is to learn that it's not as important as I think, right? What's important is the acceptance, right? And the compassion. But this is sort of my archetype, my tribe. So you can see the outfit that I have on is kind of an emanation of that. Right. And so that has me dress up every day. That's my agreement. So I made that promise, right, to spirit. I said, okay, if I can learn this work, then I'm gonna dress it every day. That's my promise. So if I'm going to the farmer's market or I'm going to get a cup of tea or I'm going shopping, I'm always dressed up. And so I know that I'm adding energy to the universe. So dressing almost enters a different arena. It moves from fashion and image to a soul journey, right? It really, in a way, moves to the personal growth development movement and the healing arts.
Mm. Mm.
And
Yeah.
it came from the ancient temples of Egypt, right? They understood radiant energy. That's what they lived with. And so now they're passing it back all these generations. Like there's an inner light. Let's keep it alive, like the Olympic torch. How do we keep that alive for ourselves and everybody else? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, journey seems to be the operative word for this sort of transformation that you're speaking of. I started looking into it a couple of years ago now, and I basically have had to almost throw out almost the whole of my previous closet over time, because even the things that were the right colors were not really honoring what we were talking about at the beginning, my face shapes and things like that. They weren't necessarily the right styles. I did have a few pieces that I was able to keep, and they were the pieces that I did know work for me. Like I've had them for years and years and years. They're like my favorite things, but now I know why they were my favorite things.
Yes, exactly. I think that I love what you just said, because I feel that a lot of us, when we go shopping, we feel like, we don't know what we're doing. But what happens is the colors give you this template and it keeps you kind of on the straight and narrow with yourself. Like that's on sale and it's comfortable, but it's really not my coloring. And so someone else can enjoy that. They're going to look better in it. I've got what works for me. And so and we start knowing why something doesn't work. And so that's very powerful. Like, I'm not going to buy this because the color is too strong. Or for me, if I try to dress in your colors instead of my own, look at my face, it gets very dull.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and the psychology of it, it's interesting to look at what we inherited from our mothers. So I had a mother, I grew up with 5 brothers, 3 older and 2 younger, but beauty was really important to her. And it's really what bonded us. So we would set the table at night and we would all sit down for dinner together, right? That was an important ritual for us. But she loved beauty. And so that got passed on to me. So even though I grew up with the capacity to be a tomboy, I wasn't a very, very good one. I was better at swimming and water ballet, right, than I was at playing basketball. So there were a lot of things that supported me to validate beauty in my life and the importance of it. Not like it was pretentious in any way, but like it was the foundation for me to live in the world and have a beautiful home, and that it was divinely inspired.
Mm.
Mhm.
I'd love to talk to you as well for something else that I know um, is maybe of concern to many women, particularly the age group we're talking to, about hair color. Because I actually put in the intro video for this series, I put an experience that I had. My hair it was naturally dark brown, but it started going gray on the top first. And so the
Okay.
roots would show through very quickly. And I was sort of like in my late 40s, and I started to say to the hairdresser, oh, I'm actually thinking about just growing out the color and being going natural. And the hairdresser said to me, oh, don't do that, you'd hate it. What we'll do is we'll start putting blonde highlights in so you can't see the
Oh,
regrowth so much. And I hated that because I'm not a blonde. It didn't
yeah.
look good against my skin tone or anything like that. So eventually a couple of years later, I did just grow it out. I cut my hair short, grow it out, and then grew it long. And when I saw a male friend just after, I guess, hadn't seen for some months, and the hair had grown out since the last time I had seen him, and he said to me, he was surprised to see the gray hair. He said, "Oh, have you given up on relationships and men?"
Oh, wow.
And I just thought, there's such double standards because men get to be called the silver foxes. And
Yeah.
I wonder how many women worry about things like that, that if they go their natural gray color, they will be seen as old. When in
Yeah.
fact, it's not my experience. I've had many more compliments actually since my hair has been gray than when I was coloring.
Too. I have too. Yeah, because I was coloring my hair and that was a dark black brown and it wasn't going with my skin tone anymore because when we progress in years, everything is moving together in harmony, but we have to recognize that. So when my skin is getting more muted and then my hair is too strong for it, there's where the dissonance was. I had to, it's interesting. I'm recalling this. I had to leave LA to go gray. It was so unpopular for me to do this in Hollywood,
Mm,
right? And I was on a retreat and I couldn't, I just wasn't near a hairdresser, didn't think about it. And my hair started growing out. And then both my parents had beautiful white hair. I said, 2 out of 2, listen, I'm going to go for this.
mm,
And I just cut it off. It was just like this short all
mm,
over. And I cut it off and I've never regretted it.
mm.
I think that's where the healing is, that there's these myths and stories in our culture that really aren't true. And we both can testify to that. Like I've never felt better, but I feel it's supporting other women in our life to really look at that as a mythology, and that that it isn't true, and that it needs to be healed by all of us. And whatever our choice, I have many people who go gray. I have people who go gray and say, I'm not happy this way. I'm going back to my natural color. When we do the colors, we give you that, so you have that choice. Um, but I see more and more people that I am looking at these days are really happy with their gray, that they've made that choice and they're happy with it. And then the colors shift, right? The colors aren't quite as bright. My colors have stayed a little bit brighter because my hair is so white, right? It still has a reflection in it, but I have to watch my color combinations. If I cover this up and just have the black and red, it's a little stronger. And then if I just have that peak of white, it's that little bit, right? It's framing back in the white. So you're learning to dress. One thing I'd love to show everybody is what the colors mean.
Yes.
So, when you get the palette, each color has a meaning and the colors are coming from you. So we give people 3 neutrals because that becomes the foundation of your life. The eye color, the mirror of the soul, is the color that you wear to balance. The skin tone is affinity and self-love and fellowship. The red is passion. We give 2 power colors, right? And then we have a support color, but mine is the purple. All the lighter values are for what we call pastels or options. So because people use this a lot for decorating, and then we have the prints and then the metals.
Mhm.
So everything around me in my home and my car and everything is a reflection of me. And so again, the colors are done with this harmonic, so people ended up with a coordinated wardrobe. And there's many colors who believe you can wear any color. It's a matter of the tonal value. I was trained that way originally, and then I found that there's only one of you. So there has to be a specific constellation of colors that create you to have you come up and show. And it's almost like you're showing up in the world, right? You're presencing yourself.
Yes, that makes sense to me. Yeah, we all have a unique vibration, and as you mentioned, voice as well, that can be represented in both
Yeah,
color and in sound.
exactly.
Yeah, 'cause
Right.
light and sound are like, if you go esoteric or even scientific for a minute, light and sound would be early movements from space to form. Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're a special gift. And I think what the colors gave me was a commitment to my own self nurturing. Because I was in fashion, I really was lost. I was dressing everything but myself. So it just kind of returned me home. And in an emotional sense, like I trusted myself, psychology, like I felt I could be strong in the world as myself, and spiritually, that I was, really honoring who I was meant to be. Yeah. So
Mm.
on all levels, it really changed my life.
Yeah. And I'll add to that because for me, I realized that when I came across this work, that um, as part of my wounding is a visibility wound, like not feeling seen and heard in the past. And of course, I
Oh,
worked
right.
on that psychologically. But once I sort of started exploring this type of color work, I realized that actually the way that I was showing up probably wasn't, with the clothing that I was wearing, probably not was not consistent with my message. So that it wasn't something necessarily about me that I wasn't seen and heard. Probably I was confusing other people because they would see, or they would pick up my energy, but my clothing wasn't necessarily consistent with that.
Right. Yeah.
So this sort of journey of the color and recreating my wardrobe has
Mm,
helped me to feel that I'm more in alignment and
yeah.
giving clearer messages, which
Yeah.
has the effect
Well,
of making me feel more seen and more heard.
yeah, I'll go over actually. There is, in a way, there's the challenge with your season, and then there's the possibility. So the challenge for the spring is really about not being taken seriously, because they live in this joy of the moment. And then the summer for you, it's feeling that you're in some ways not strong enough or invisible, right? Because you're softer, you represent the divine feminine.
Mm.
And then the opposite of you is the divine masculine. So they come on really strong and they're afraid of their power, right?
My daughter's one of those.
Right. And then the winter giant, we're distant, we're the moon energy. So we're afraid of not being liked by people.
Yeah.
So, there's sort of with our precious packaging, there's, there is a challenge. So I dressed every season. So when I dressed the spring, you can see how incongruent this was, being like my mom.
Yeah.
And then the summer, I was always told I was too intense. So you can see that I tried this one on and I disappear.
Yeah.
And then trying to compete with five brothers. Of course, I did this, which is really off key and a very unbalanced inner masculine within myself. And then finally, I came home, and in my family, my brothers were supposed to pattern after my dad, but he was a winter like me, and I was supposed to pattern after my mother, who was a spring. So very, kind of mixed messaging. And it wasn't until I left home and did the colors that I said, okay, now I understand, right? And and have a whole different relationship with my family out of it, right? Because I can own my own energy and I don't have to compete. And yeah, have a
Yeah.
much different relationship.
So many benefits of this type of work, other than finding your true colors.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost the true north of your life, right? Like everything kind of lines up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't worry about a lot of the things that I used to worry about. Like what other people think is lovely, but oftentimes they're projecting on me.
Mhm.
So all the summers love my hair softer, right? Because it represents more of their S curve. oh, the springs like my hair like this because it's kind of more animated like them. So, it's, you can always thank people for sharing and noticing, but also when they're speaking, they're really speaking themselves, right? And so I think there's a lot of healing because we've received so many messages from our family and our mothers that really aren't really true about us.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, you say all those projections where they're projecting their season maybe onto, and
Yeah.
their choices onto you. Um, Happens so much, I think. And also, I think probably throughout life, and certainly when we're younger, we may well trend to dress as people we admire, want to be like. Like, for
Mhm.
example, um, I was working in management consultancy in my late 20s and my early 30s, and there was a certain look to adopt in those jobs.
Right.
The
Uh-huh.
structured, the 80s suits with the big shoulder pads and the structured suits. And
Yeah.
yeah, at that time, I was definitely dressing more according to your winter board.
Okay.
So,
Yes, that
yeah.
would make sense.
So
Yeah.
I definitely, I think I was a bit of a wannabe winter for quite some time.
Uh,
That may be reflective of the bosses that I was working for.
yeah, we were each other's identity, right? I was trying to be softer, trying to be stronger. I mean, it's just having such a compassion and a little bit of humor about all the decades when I look at all the pictures and all the messaging we got, and now we have a way back home. So that's why it was very exciting for me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The way back home, and I think certainly, this point in life, the wise woman point in life. That's what a lot of us are looking for. And so, this, if people who are viewing have not come across this um, idea of dressing according to your essence rather than according to fashion, then this
Yeah.
opens so many doorways to
Yeah.
be expressive and not at the dictates of fashions for
Mhm.
the remaining decades of your life, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to feel that we're whole and complete at this point in life,
Mm.
right? And that for me, I feel like this is in my 70s now to how can I give back, right? And how can I contribute everything that I've learned? When you say that word wisdom, I was thinking about that the other day, and I feel it's in a way the ability or the willingness to experience the unknown, to live in the question of life.
Mm.
Uh, because the moment I say, "Oh, she looks like this woman I colors I did 10 years ago," I can give her that palette. Well, then I'm not being in the moment with you, right? So for me, it's just
Unique.
almost an undoing of my thought process that I know, and really I don't know. Really, I don't know until I'm really being with you, who you are, and so
And I can
it's
imagine you
that's
saying,
why it's a spiritual journey for me to do a palette, right? See, I have to get my own ego out of the way and see you for your own intrinsic value without my agenda.
yeah,
I'd
yeah.
make everybody a vivid winter, which I am, right?
I was just thinking that as you were saying that, actually, the delight of a new person, another aspect of the divine, if you like, that you haven't
Yeah.
previously encountered. So really looking into their design and their colors is revealing. It's revealing another
Yeah, it's
of the divine.
privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a partnership. We're co-creating,
Mm.
and yeah, just being in unison with what's been given to us, and that's really where the beauty and the imagination and the possibility is. I remember thinking, oh, I'm really afraid because I love all color, and then I'm going to be limited. And yet I had all these clothes, I wasn't wearing them, and nothing went together, so that wasn't really helping me. And now I have a wardrobe where things go with something else. I can actually create an outfit. I don't have things hanging in there that I'm not wearing,
Mm.
and I become much more artistic and feminine. I'd say that's the other reason a lot of people like our community, as we are saying, well, what if I were being an artist today and dressing myself, what would that look like?
Mm.
And it makes it fun.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to tell the audience about the community you have? And you also have a free gift for them so they know how to get in touch.
Yeah, well, the website is jenniferbutlercolor.com. And we have lots of wonderful free videos that you can watch, and the quiz that you can take. And also we do Saturday webinars once a month in, on Zoom. So we have people join us from all over the world. And the community is very supportive. We have a membership site. So one of the levels is where you take pictures of your outfits. And when as a community, we support you. So you might say, I'm going on my first date in a long time, and this is what I'm wearing. We had a gentleman who was going to court, family court. We got him dressed for that. Someone got a raise, right? She dressed in her skin tone and got the raise that she was looking for. So it's learning how to dress with intention and really have these women that are really supportive of each other. Yeah.
Thank you. And your free gift was they can go to your website and take that
Take the
quiz.
quiz. Yeah, and it's really important to watch the video because it has each season with these beautiful pictures and music. And sometimes people get it from that before they take the quiz. It's important to watch that slideshow, which is also free.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a slideshow. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Jennifer.
Well,
For all
thank
that wisdom,
you.
all the inspiration. I mean, I always find it really inspiring to talk about your color work. And yeah, thank you so much for extending that wisdom to this audience as well.
Yeah, and thank you. I love the Wise Women community. Thank you for that invitation for me because I feel like we're an important part of the culture now, right? Where we're supporting a lot of people moving forward in their life and building upon our knowledge. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank
All
you.
right.